Hello everyone, welcome back to Open Line. We have with us Tim Takacs, elder law attorney. So we've talked about trusts.
Yes.
We've talked about powers of attorney.
Yes. The big three now is wills, right?
Wills. I'm always fascinated about wills.
Yeah.
And
Altamont.
That's the shortest will ever written.
As far as I know.
Altamont.
It sounds pretty short to me, yeah.
And it works.
It works.
So people get all all concerned about wills, all concerned about probate.
Right.
You know, what do you tell people about wills? What do we need to know?
Okay, well, you know okay, how does property pass when you die? Okay, that's what a will does that's what people are concerned about. You know, I own something, and when I die, I want to make sure it goes where I want it to go, hopefully. You know, and there are three ways that happens. You know, one is it by operation of law. You know, an operation of law basically means, so my wife and I own a house, I die, she owns the house because she's on the deed. Period, done. Nothing else has to happen. She now owns it because that's the way the property is titled. And you can do bank accounts the same way. Now, a lot of those things we don't recommend because there are advantages and disadvantages of it, but that's one way property passes, operation of law. The second is by a contract. All right, a beneficiary designation on a retirement plan, a life insurance policy. You make a beneficiary designation on one of those things on a life insurance policy, and the insurance company, you have a contract with the insurance company that says, okay, when you die, you know, then our contract is we're gonna pay this person.
Right.
That's a contract. Passes that wealth then passes to that person automatically. And the third is like a written instruction or an instruction of some sort, which is a will.
That's the will.
That's the will. You know, and of course, when we talk about what a will is, you know, the Altamont thing is that, you know, you pull it, you know, the guy gets it out of the desk drawer and it's an envelope that says, you know, Altamont, and it says, well, so he takes it to the judge and the judge goes, well, now who wrote that? You know, and so you have to identify, you know, was that really the person that, okay, that's my older brother's handwriting, you know, so somebody testifies that that's the older brother's handwriting and he wants, you know, and it's clearly it's clearly an intent to bequeath something to somebody, all to mom. You know, so the judge says, all right, I'm going to admit it. So I'm going to say that is his last will and testament, and that's his written instruction, is he wants everything that goes, he wants it to go to mom.
And that's a will.
That is a will.
Now, the passing of things by just family or whatever. Let's say you're married, but let's say you're separated, and the person's not on the deed of the house.
Right.
And then the husband dies, and the wife lives in another state.
Right, and he's still married, and the house is in his name only. So.
Right. Does it go to his wife?
Yes, it does. Some of it goes anyway.
Okay.
You know, if he has no children, then and then all of it goes to the wife. But if he has children, you know, then the children get something, and the wife gets a portion of it too.
Interesting.
Right.
But now, if the wife is on the deed, she gets all of it.
Right.
Because she needs a place to live.
Right. If it's held as husband and wife, and here's an interesting thing too for people that want to go down to this rabbit hole, you know, is that, you know, and how this got started is that, you know, for most of the, you know, English law, women could not own money or property. Right.
Right.
And so a person would die, husband dies, you know, and the king would go, well, wait a minute, am I supposed to support your wife? You can't just leave it to your sons. You know, so the common law developed, and the king's law developed in such a way is that you could not disinherit your spouse.
Wow.
You know, so the surviving spouse would have a right of homestead, because as you said, she has to have some place to live.
Right. Right.
You know, so the surviving spouse has a right of homestead. She has a right of year's support, and I say the she because that's kind of how it developed, because it was the widow, you know, the knight who died and left everything to the sons, you know, and so rather than that person basically being dependent upon the king or the crown, you know, the law developed as, no, you can't Faust her off on us.
Right, right.
So homestead, a year's support, you know, and you couldn't, you know, and then typically if it was bequeathed to somebody else, there would be some portion of the estate would actually go to the surviving spouse. You know, so that's you could not disinherit your spouse, and those laws still remain in effect today in varying degrees. You know, in all the states around the country.
Yeah, that would be a uniform thing.
That would be pretty much a uniform thing.
Some states have different things.
There's some minor variations, but as far as I know, that's how it works.
And in your
whether
world,
it's the husband that died first or the wife that died first.
Wow. And in your world, what's the biggest, most contentious sort of area you get into when it comes to wills?
Okay, here's one, because Lynn and I were talking about just the other day, and this is something I know I've got a few minutes here, a minute or two, but you know, I went to a program years and years ago, and I did a speech, and this woman came up to me afterwards, and her son was standing next to her, and she started talking about, you know, this piece of property that she had inherited from her husband. You know, and then I realized she was the evil stepmother. Because what had happened was she and her husband, you know, they came into a marriage. They both brought children into the marriage.
Right.
He had a large piece of property, I think in Goodlettsville or someplace, and when he died, he left it to her. And her question was, "Do I have to leave anything to his children?" And I said, "No."
Wow, you don't. Oh boy.
You know, of course, that piece of property, which his children thought, well, that's the family farm.
Yeah.
Well, he left it outside. He left it to a stranger. He bequeathed it to his second wife or subsequent wife, and now she's got it. And she asked me, "Do I have to leave anything to his children?" No, you don't, not legally.
And so when she dies, she does not have to leave any of it.
She doesn't have to leave anything to his children.
Wow. All right, we're going to take a break. Come back. We'll wrap everything up. Be back right after this.